stars passed through here thanks to Baker's Jazz Lounge on Livernois. In its heyday, the greats of jazz came through here. Ella Fitzgerald, Miles Davis, you name it, they had an appearance at Baker's.
I remember when this city was thriving with people and businesses.
Who wants to live in a city where only half of the street lights come on?
Detroit is beautiful. Just look at all the good things that have come out of this city.
And when you drive down Livernois, you gotta go 20 miles down the street before you can get to the other side because they got that stupid island in the middle.
When I got here, the Avenue of Fashion, right there on Livernois, was the place to be.
This neighborhood has always been one of professionals, and it was made up of auto executives, lawyers, doctors. Some names that stand out: George Richards. He was the first owner of the Lions. He's the one that brought the NFL to Detroit to start a team. Piston John Sally lived in Palmer Woods. There are Motown stars.
Then there was a lot of people moving out. They say the riot had a lot to do with it.
She's gone. Her house is empty. And I think, who will be the next neighbor? I won't know.
Only a fool would say good things about this place.
I'm still in love with this natural jewel.
So I know you got some fight in you. Don't just sit there and take it. Take action.
Yeah, it was in the 1920s when that priest, Father John McNichols, I guess that's why we live off McNichols, him and some armed guards came out here when this was nothing but farmland. They say he had $100,000 in cash with him and bought the land.
I have heard this story. I'm not totally sure about how true it is, but Father John McNichols was a priest at the University of Detroit, which is located which was first located where the law school is located now, downtown. He wanted to start a mission church, kind of to serve the countryside of Detroit's Catholics. So he traveled here with $100,000 in his suitcase, with 2 guards, to purchase the land, which is now the University of Detroit campus, to start the Jesu Mission Church. Well, there were families that lived out here on farms, kind of sparsely separated, and they were of, a lot of the parishes in Detroit were there to serve a certain immigrant population, whether it was Italian or Polish or German, but this church, because it served a spread out population, didn't have an immigrant identity, served Germans, Poles, Italians, Irish, anyone that was just in that area. But because the city was growing so much at that time, the neighborhood grew up very quickly and Jesu Church grew very quickly. The school was founded just 3 years after the church was opened in 1925. It had 180 students its first year. By 1931, it was up to 950. So you can see just in that less than a decade, it had expanded that much, and it continued to grow into the middle of the 20th century.
Now, by the time I got here from Chicago, this neighborhood was mostly Catholics and Jewish. Now, there was some African Americans, some, not many, but some. And a lot of people were moving out.
There were several changes. I'd say the biggest changes were in both religion and race, and of the neighborhood's residents. If you looked at the neighborhood in the 50s and 60s, it was predominantly Jewish and also Catholic, or not predominantly Catholic, but Catholics had very strong identity there, and predominantly white. But this changed as the city changed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. How it was a little different than the rest of the city is that it wasn't a complete change from white to black in a very short period of time, like occurred in other neighborhoods. It was a slower transition because when some people moved, black families moved in, but also white families moved in. Integration occurred in this neighborhood in a more defined way than in other neighborhoods. And that brought a unique set of challenges. Some residents that still live here now remember when they moved in the difficulties in either purchasing a house or hearing real estate agents to a white family say something like, "Don't worry, a black family won't buy it," or something like that. Those feelings definitely did exist.
Well, we moved here from, I don't remember where we moved from. You'll understand when you get as old as me. You're a youngster. So, we moved in this house here on this, what's the name of this street? Cambridge. Yes, it was a very nice house and it had a for sale sign out front. Only white folks lived here then. I think it was 1960. I told my husband we should go inside and take a look at the house. So we walked up to the door and the lady let us in to take a look around. But this lady, she was very particular indeed. I walked a little way in and she said, "Don't sit in that chair." I jumped up real quick. Then she said, "Go on in the dining room, but be careful now." She had this baby grand piano in the corner. I eased over to it. "Don't touch it now."
You know how you kind of size people up? Well, the day Frank and I moved in here, there was this man next door, this big man. He was sitting on his front porch and he didn't look too friendly. And I said to myself, okay, now, how is this going to be? We just didn't know. Well, a few days later, I came home, and that same man was in our house talking to my mother, and he was inviting us over to his house. And it was amazing. He was an African prince of some sort, all these jewels and gold, and it was just amazing. And he was just a really nice man.
White folks left when we moved in. Didn't want to be contaminated, I guess. Yeah, they left. And it was all right, too.
It just can't be about one kind of person, you know, because everyone's got something different to bring to the table. And we can all learn from each other. That's what I think.
Sometimes I think that this neighborhood has lost perspective on how important it is to appreciate tradition. It used to be that grandma, ma, and children shopped here. It's not that way anymore.
You don't have as many owner-occupied homes. A lot of people are renting. A lot of people shop other places. But we
Came here before the riots and didn't leave.
And we've been here in good times and bad times. And we plan to stay.
I remember when I first fell in love with Palmer. It was in elementary school. I have so many fond memories of being a young girl and us spending time together. Feeding the ducks in the spring. Swimming in the pool in the summer. Playing in the leaves in the fall. Ice skating in the winter. At times, I felt like I was living in a fairy tale.
Palmer Park is a really special place. It's the city's only surviving log cabin is in the park. Mounted police horses are in the park. There's the pond and the log cabin just make it kind of a magical place. So a lot of my important childhood memories come from Palmer Park. So it's always been, to me, a really special place. And I feel like it has such potential to bring all neighborhoods together, the community together. And I just think it has huge potential for the quality of life for our area. And so I just think it's really very important that this gem is really treasured and brought back to its grandeur that it used to have.
But then my friends started complaining. We never spend time with you alone anymore. You're always with Palmer.
Even my boyfriend got jealous of my Palmer time.
They called an intervention. They said it was as if Palmer had taken over my whole life and that too many things were suffering. They were right.
We walk 3 miles periphery around the park, which I love. It's like Sesame Street. You see the same bus driver every day. You wave to them. You see other regulars. Every Thursday night, my boyfriend and I lead bike rides in the park. In the summer, we do free yoga in the park. And when I'm in town, not at my cottage, I'm always at the yoga. We also have Tai Chi, so I frequently will go to Tai Chi. Whenever we have events, I'm always helping plan the events and at the events. And then I spend countless hours just doing other work, at home, writing grants, organizing volunteers, promoting Palmer Park. Everywhere I go, I carry promotional materials with me wherever I go. So it's just, I probably on 100% of the time with Palmer Park if I have a chance to talk about it. I want this to be available to the Detroit kids, the kids that live around here, and also regionally, though. I think it should be a regional destination. People from other parts of Michigan, I think, should want to come and see this history here, the log cabin and the beauty. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
After all these years, I'm still in love with this natural jewel. Yeah, I'm in love with Palmer. Palmer Park.
It was kind of a running joke after one after the other. We all got married.
We were called the Women of Warrington, and at my wedding, our pastor stood up and made the announcement. So, hey, single ladies, if you want to get married, you might want to talk to Bob Herman, our landlord. And that's sort of how that's how the joke got started. And then it just kind of rolled from there.
Every woman who has ever bought a flat or rented a flat from Bob on Warrington has ended up getting married. They're called the Women of Warrington. You can only be invited to live in one of Bob's flats. He doesn't advertise, he doesn't guarantee, but everyone knows it will happen. Dot was the 10th one. When she left me the prayer card that was given to her. You're supposed to recite this on each of the original 4 women's wedding anniversaries. Anne's is next week. Who's Anne? One of the original Women of Warrington. You're kidding, right? Oh, women of Warrington, pray for me. I seek a mate that we might be. Lovers for life, husband and wife, blessed for all eternity. Amy, Ann, Monica 3, and Sarah 2, please pray for me.
Dear God.
I'm not done. Husbands of Warrington, pray for me. I seek a mate, faithful and free. Tommy, Bill, Andy, Greg, pray for a man with a good heart to wed. Amen.
The joke in our house was, if you wanted to get married, go ahead and move in because it might take a while, but all of us between 9 and 10 years living there met our husbands and married, and we were all within a year or two of each other. For each of us, it really was a hope and a desire, but we were also really happy in the time that we lived here and were community for each other.
Yes.
So those were happy years too.
Yes.
So in that way, it was sort of this,
I don't know.
It was really great the way it came about, but we also were really happy in the interim because it was such a great community here.
And I think maybe it's part of it that happiness sort of attracts and draws I think what you want, because when you think about it, we were happy, mm-hmm. and we had great community, and we I don't know.
Everything that has been good to me has happened in Detroit. Oh, and my husband. We have been married for 34 years. So when I think of Livernois, I think of my husband. I think of being able to walk to restaurants and listen to music. I think of romance. I would like everyone to experience that.
I mean, I just want it to remain the community that it is. I think that's it. I think it's hard to say what Detroit's going to look like 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And so I hope that this neighborhood just remains to be a place where people take ownership of it. And you can see that in the stories of the people that have lived here in the past. And I just hope that continues.